So we'll be able to share this in the future and for people who were not able to join. So with that, I will pass the baton to Stefanie. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
I am so honored to be here, to be sharing this with you all. And I'll just say quickly, Amalia, you are so dear to me because she not only trained my mom, but really brought her back to her body after, well, first a horrific accident, and then second, a lot of pain that she was in recently. So thankful. And I find it so perfect that we talked about me coming in for a seasonal talk a while back, and it just so kind of slid into this time. And as we'll see, the mother archetype is actually so prevalent right now. So I was thinking how perfect that is. And I loved that seasonal breath. That was actually really cool, and I might steal that. Because because I was actually thinking about that earlier today. Like there's these two pauses. There's the empty pause. That's exactly how I thought about it. Sometimes I feel like we share a brain, right? Like we are very,
I have felt that way many
oh,
times. So
we
yes,
are, every time one of us posts something, it's like, I could have literally said that, so it's like there's this, we're going to be talking all about these cycles, and then there's these two pauses. There's a full pause and there's an empty pause. So we are in this beautiful full pause of harvest and just everything in this gorgeous abundance around us. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to be sharing with you about seasonal self-care, seasonal living through the lens of Chinese medicine, specifically also through the lens of, as women, how we can tap into this wisdom. And I am so blessed that I've been able to study and practice seasonal living for many years. And sometimes I think, like, is this ever going to get old? Like, if it's the same thing of these cycles year after year, is it going to kind of just like feel like, not still new? But it really always is. It's always something new and always something more nuanced that I can get from it. And so I'm giving you guys kind of my current version of it all, but it's grown, and I hopefully it will continue to grow. So with that being said, I'm a total nerd with all this stuff. So I made a slideshow, and I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, and some of you have been to a few of these before. Winter, I think Doris, you were at spring. So I'm so happy to have you here. And some of this will be repeat information, but it's always amazing to see how it plays out through that particular season. Alrighty, so here I go. And I just need to make this bigger. Alrighty, everybody can see? Good. Okay, so this is actually the other thing I need to do is minimize I'm minimizing all my video. And if someone has a question, let me just open the chat. That was closed. Okay. Yeah, if you want to put a question in the chat, go ahead. I'm not sure if I will, see it right away, but I'll definitely get a look to it at some point. And always feel free to chime in if you want to come off mute and have a quick question you want to forget, or as well as Emily, you can chime in if you see something.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that stuff periodically.
Yeah. And so I haven't timed this, but I'm going to try to get it in, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, maybe more. I don't know. I can't make any promises. So stick around as long as you can. We're going to do a short Qigong practice at the end. That's probably going to be about maybe 15 minutes. And if you have to hop off, the recording will go out. So late summer, season of nurturing. And at first it was 8, but I think there's actually more in there that I have now. So we're going to go with practices from Chinese medicine to feel more calm, flow, and connection. So I always like to start out with a quick overview of all the benefits of tuning to the cycles and energy of nature. And it's really a cornerstone of Chinese medicine. I didn't even actually introduce that I'm an acupuncturist. That's how I came about into this knowledge, into this learning. So a cornerstone of Chinese medicine is aligning with the seasons, aligning with the energies of nature. That's one of the things that really drew me to it. And the idea that we're not supposed to have the same diet or activities throughout the year, much to the opposite thing we're taught right now. And so some of the benefits that I've found are really supporting my overall health, balance, and vitality. Each season is like this doorway and this opportunity to reset and adjust things that may be just a little off, taking a look at your habits, your daily flow, or what you've been eating, and just gives you that little push to reset. It's given me a really refreshed outlook on life throughout looking through the lens of the seasons. It teaches us to embrace change and can really help us to get out of that rut that I mentioned. It's also brought me much into a deeper place of intentional living and a sense of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment in my day. One of my favorite parts about seasonal living has been that it's redefined my relationship to food, exercise, and self-care. And so instead of looking at foods as good and bad, or even like macros and calories, it's now looking through the lens of the energies of the food, the colors of the food, these different properties that I'll share with you. And that has really shifted how I eat, really, in my relationship to food and how I nurture myself and exercise as well. It's fostered a deeper connection to the natural world because we really just start to pay attention more to the natural world and feel that we're a part of it. Actually, we feel part of this interconnectedness of life. That's a hard word. Part of this fabric, not separate at all, just part of it. Everything that's happening in nature is also happening in us. And we have to really almost like deliberately choose and make choices to remember that, because it's not taught, right? It's not taught to us. If anything, it's only like consumer, like now it's going to be Halloween at the store and this at the store and that at the store, but it's really not about that. It's about like deep diving into feeling the energies and how they're changing throughout the year. And it's been a source of creativity for me, inspiration, deeper spirituality, and then kind of as a side note, all these other physical and emotional benefits that I've gotten from it. So as you'll see, seasonal living is not just about making outer changes, but a whole approach to life and a mindset, really. It starts with this mindset, and then it comes with the outer changes. And that by living with more intention and less on autopilot, we find it easier to make healthy choices and inspiration to cultivate new habits. So instead of feeling stuck or resistant to change, we become more open to the ebbs and flows of life and more connected to ourselves and the cycle of nature. So a lot of people might just think, oh, living seasonally is just changing what we eat, but it's actually also how we cook. So Chinese medicine has a lot of really amazing things to teach about that, how we cook our food from season to season, our exercise and movement, activity and rest levels, daily routines and self-care, and overall focus and mindset. So these are all different avenues that we can use to align with the seasons. So I'm going to give a very short overview of why Chinese medicine teaches what I'm going to teach you about late summer and why it teaches about everything with the different seasons. And all starts with this concept of yin yang. It's fundamental to Chinese medicine and to the whole philosophy, the Eastern philosophy of seeing everything in the universe as this balance. So a lot of you probably are familiar with this, but yin has to do with the dark side of the circle, the yin, the cool, the rest, inwardness, receptivity, nighttime, winter, water, and the moon. And in that, there's a potential for what's to come. And from that grows yang, which is warmth, brightness, activity, expansion, expression, and it's associated with the daytime, summer, fire, and sun. And what you'll notice is always that at the fullness of one, the fullest expression of one is the seed of the other, and that they're always turning into each other. So they need each other. They're not just sitting on the opposite side of the spectrum of separated opposites. They are interconnected totally. And so one generates the other and turns into the other. And that's why if we become depleted in one, we'll often become depleted in the other. And acupuncture pretty much comes down to trying to balance these in the body. And the idea is that, first there was one, and then there was two, yin yang, and then there was five. So the five became everything that's manifest in the universe is made up of five elements, or sometimes they're called five phases, because they're not, again, just static things. They're always turning into each other. And what you see here is the circle of the year that starts with summer, late summer, it goes through the circle, and you'll see that the elements that are associated with each of those seasons. So instead of 4 seasons, Chinese medicine sees there's 5 seasons, and this is kind of the extra one thrown in there, and you'll see why. So these 5 elements make up everything in existence. They are energetic states in a constant cycle of transformation. And I love to explain kind of how they generate each other. Each is the mother, the parent of the next one. So I like to start with water in the winter. Water grows wood. Wood feeds fire. Fire creates earth in the sense of, burning down to ash and everything that's left. From the earth, we mine finding metal, and then metal will have condensation and emit water. And then it creates this beautiful cycle. So each season supports and prepares the body for the next season and can be kind of like a springboard for our health throughout the year. And there's a cumulative effect throughout the year. So the things we do now are going to support us in winter and to be healthier in the spring. And it really does accumulate a benefit the more you live like this. So any questions about that? So that's one way, that last one, the 5 elements going around. That's one model. There's another model that actually sees earth element as the center. And it's still, the 5th season, the 5th element, but there's this always kind of like returning back to the earth. And so the earth not only represents this time of late summer, but actually the transition between every season as one season transforms into the next. It creates that sense of kind of like centeredness and groundedness, which of course we can understand why that those things are associated with earth. And even kind of creating room and creating the container for the changes to come. So it's balanced. There's the elements of fire and wood are considered more yang. The elements of metal and water are considered more yin, which of course associates with those times of year. And then the earth is considered the balanced one. And it's also the midpoint of the lunar year, which the lunar year starts late January or early February. So that's always when like Chinese Lunar New Year is. And there's really beautiful, it's actually an app, but there's some websites that describe what actually it's the Japanese way of looking at 72 mini seasons throughout the year. And they always have their beginning of the seasons are like way earlier than we think about it. Like their autumn started in the beginning of August. And it's like when the real just little tiny details start to show up as something changing, right? In the light or in the growth. I always find it really interesting because their spring starts like in February. And in February, I really do feel like you can actually, if I take a walk, like start to feel like the winter is waking up. It's not like it's not like 3 weeks into March, it's actually in February. So this is a whole big thing, which we're not going to get into, but this is the basis of how what we do in the seasons makes sense. It all comes from this chart, from this system of what's called correspondences. And so each element in each season has a corresponding organ and kind of direction or energy, emotion, virtue, tissue and part of the body, sense, color, and flavor. So that's down the left side. And so really all that you need to be looking at is the late summer one down here. But it is really amazing to look at and just be like, wow, how did they figure this out thousands of years ago? And it really applies, like so much of it still applies to our daily life, to our modern life. So for late summer, we have the earth element, the spleen and the stomach are the organs associated with this time. The energy is centering. So everything is related to that center, that digestion, all of those things. The emotion that is connected with this time are the emotions of worry and anxiety. The virtue is compassion and nurturing, as well as several others that we'll talk about. The tissue of the body are the muscles. The sense is taste. The color is yellow and the flavor is sweet. So those will inform what are we eating, what are we focusing on, what area of the body are we really trying to tend to right now. So the virtues of earth are not only compassion and nurturing, but also everything relating to the earth, grounding, stability, centering, balance, as well as abundance, appreciation. And then when we get more into the emotional elements of it, it's connections, trust, and then also boundaries and shape and form, because earth creates shape and form, right? It has shape and form, but it really creates form. So it holds the shape that the river will run through. Or of course, like we create, clay and pottery, and it becomes these things that we hold that are shapes. So it's a container, it can hold space. And also earth represents transformation as it does in being the center point of the seasons. So this is what can happen when our earth element is out of balance. Some people might tend to have more of these, but I think on some level we can all probably now or at one point have felt that our earth and our spleen and stomach were out of balance. It's probably one of the most common things that I see in my acupuncture practice are things related to what we call spleen qi deficiency. So that's what a lot of these physical symptoms are, but also some of them are related to stomach issues as well. So when the earth is out of balance, it's going to usually hit our digestion first and foremost. So things like bloating or issues with elimination. There's also often a malabsorption. So people might be even eating food that is good, so-called good, but not feeling like they're digesting it well or absorbing it well. So their energy might be really low. A lower high appetite. I won't read the whole list, but you guys can just kind of take a glance down and again, see if you feel like you resonate with any of these. Menstrual issues are very common. Blood issues are very common because the spleen is seen as, once again, a force of containing the blood. So it actually holds the blood in the vessels. The spleen qi, again, not the spleen organ, but we're talking more about the energetic function of these things now. So things with bruising or varicose veins are often a spleen issue. Sweet cravings, excessive sweet cravings or blood sugar issues are almost definitely a sign that your spleen qi is off. And then the channel issue. So the channel we'll be going over later, but especially the stomach channel that runs through the lower teeth and jaw, and then down the breast and into the legs. We often need to, if there's things happening along the channel, we want to address the stomach meridian. And then the emotional, mental disharmonies can be worry and anxiety. The other big one is called overthinking. So it's like overthinking, obsessing, overgiving. So if there's that nurturing element, that nurturing quality is excessive, you're overgiving, or you're stingy and you're undergiving because you feel like you don't have enough to give, and you're there's a lot of sort of mistrust and worry in that as well. There could also be over caring or a lack of empathy, poor boundaries, poor sense of self, and then there's some mental processes that can be affected as well. So difficulty concentrating and concentration, and these can often perpetuate each other. So if we are doing things that are kind of throwing us off physically, we might have more mental, emotional issues, and then that's going to actually deplete the spleen more, creating maybe more physical issues. So often becomes a cycle. So I wanted to show you quickly the stomach and spleen meridians because we're going to be doing, when we do Qigong, we're actually going to be tracing these with our hands, which just alone helps to balance them, helps to move any stuck energy. And so you can see we're going to be starting right under the eye where the stomach channel starts. It goes down the cheek, up the side of the jaw to the corner of the head. So that's why jaw and teeth issues we often need to address the stomach. Goes down and then it comes out. It goes right down the midline of the breast, down the abdomen, belly, and down the outer leg. So this is the yang organ of the earth meridians. All the meridians have a yang and yin pair. The yang goes usually more along the outside of the body. And then we go up the spleen. So it starts at the inner toe, goes around the inner leg, and then a little further out along the abdomen, goes up and then down. It ends at the sides of the ribs. Oopsie. Whoa. Okay. So here we are in late summer, and this is a beautiful time to get more balance to our earth element, to maybe take stock if some things are off with our digestive organs, with those things that I mentioned, and such simple things we can do to reshift those things. So I love this quote from one of my favorite books on the seasons called The Way of the Five Seasons. And he calls this time the season of mellow fruitfulness. Nature takes a well-earned rest from producing and lies about in the warm fields, lazily listening to the humming of bees. And so that's kind of like the energy I'll try to get into when I'm just having a moment, or yesterday was this beautiful day. Everything was like quiet we actually live kind of close to the highway, but everything was so quiet because of Labor Day. And I just sat on my rocking chair and got into this feeling of being lazy and just listening to, the humming and being kind of someone like, I just imagine like someone after the harvest, just laying in the field and taking that break, right? So there's that full pause, that top of the breath, the in-breath that we talked about, and just being in that space of fullness. So physically and spiritually, this is a time for slowing down as best we can. I know it's hard if kids are back at school and everything, but even if it's many, many moments, slowing down, gathering, and celebrating the abundance. This is a time for more inward focus and to also cultivate our energy and our immunity for the future seasons. So now we're going to get into the actual practices and the different things you can do to support you at this time. And for me, seasonal living really always starts with seasonal eating. So one thing we're going to want to do is, as the weather gets cooler, start to reduce cold and raw foods, ice drinks, and dairy and sugars, because all those are considered really tough on the spleen. The spleen is said to really like warmth. So not hot, not too spicy, but it loves warmth. And it's kind of seen as like, they didn't talk about thousands of years ago the thyroid or the metabolism, but I kind of think this all goes hand in hand with that. And the metabolism is like a little engine. It needs warmth, right? So people will come into my practice and be like, I don't know why I feel so bloated. And, I'm just having like juices and salads, but I feel so bloated. And I'm like, because it's too cold, like nothing's moving, nothing's going anywhere. It's just sitting there. So warmth gives your body that movement, that little bit of movement, right? If you start to warm anything, it'll start to move. Warmth brings movement. So these are nourishing foods, that are easily digestible are what you're going to want to start to have more. So getting out that slow cooker and, starting to make some more warm whole grains and soups and things like that. And I love salad, but what I'll do now is actually make like steamed salads. So I'll steam a bunch of things and then I'll actually still add my like dressings and all my toppings and everything. So it still feels like that freshness, but it's partly warmed and partly digested. Root vegetables are, of course, especially grounding right now. And then we can really do a lot to play around with the color and the flavor of this time. So the color is yellow and orange, and it's like, oh my gosh, not only flowers, but so much produce right now is yellow and orange. And all through the fall, all into, all that fun Thanksgiving food, like the sweet potatoes, the squash. If you see golden beets, yellow tomatoes, like things like that, I always say just grab them because that holds such power right now. These are the power foods of this time. And also all of these fruits are great. And then ginger, turmeric, and chickpeas and millet. The other thing, especially to do really anytime, but really especially now, is to see if you can get back into a little more mindful eating. To take your food and just have a moment with it, right? And eat in a relaxed environment, bring up a sense of gratitude, bring up a sense of your senses being open. And also be aware of what else you're ingesting right now. So whether it's news, social media, oh my gosh, the election, like be aware of what's being out there and what you're taking in. So the next thing you want to really do to help your earth element is to get regular. And so that not only relates to our digestion, but just regularity in our lives. And thankfully, our lives do tend to take a little more of a sense of rhythm and routines, right? Once the fall hits. And so it's I like to come from a place of the appreciation of all this, right? Rather than like kind of losing that freedom of summer is like, what are we gaining right now? We're gaining this stability, this form back again. And the earth is what holds us. The earth is what provides the ground and the steadiness of these seasons. So we want to also emulate that. We want to align with what's happening in nature because we're part of nature. So we can support our earth element by having, as best we can, regular sleep and meal times, meaningful routines and rituals, and consistent actions towards our goals. And then as I was writing this list, I was like, I really need to work on all these things, but it's always a good reminder. I've never been someone who had a lot of regularity, and I have always had issues with my earth elements. So I learned a lot from actually putting this together. There's also 3 acupressure points that can help with regularity, and I will show them once we stop the slideshow. So yeah, there are things we can do to help us if we are feeling off. These are great points for digestion, for getting more regular, but also for also jet lag, actually, interestingly enough. So these are the points if someone comes in and they have jet lag, I'll do acupuncture on these points, or I'll do them in myself because they bring our body back to rhythm, back in sync. So as I said, this time is can often, a lot of people can feel a little extra worry, a little extra anxiety, overthinking. Or if that happens to you at other times as well, it can mean that your spleen chi is off. And so too much worrying can deplete the spleen and create more of those physical issues, which can then in turn make us more prone to worry. So that connection of anxiety and GI stuff is really common. A lot of people feel that they have that, right? That they'll know that their like gut issues are always worse when they're anxious, things like that. So one of the things that's happening is that when we're in flight or flight, our blood is being taken away from our center, from our digestive organs out to our limbs. And so it makes total sense why those areas are getting deprived, and then things start to flare up. Another way to think about it is that if we're overthinking, we're turning things over and over and over in our head, that's like the equivalent of not digesting that information, not digesting that whatever it is that we're thinking about. So we have to do things that help us kind of get out of our head and support ourselves. So one of them is just hand on heart, hand on belly, breathing, things like that. We'll do this in our Qigong practice later. And feeling that sense of reciprocity with yourself. So being able to give and receive are both equally important for the earth element. So really kind of activating that in yourself. And then this is another acupressure point, which I can show you a little better later, but you can pretty much see how, if you want to try it. So you take one arm, you put it out, you lay those middle three fingers right at the edge of the hand. So that's like the wrist crease right there. And then where they end, that's called pericardium 6. And there's 2 tendons right there. So if you want to place your 3 fingers, and then where they end, you kind of slide your thumb right in there and press down with the tip of the thumb. And you might find, kind of move it up and down or a little bit closer and further to the hand, but you might find a little tender point. And that is actually, I don't know if any of you have ever used those C-bands or things like that, which is basically a band that you press, has a little bead. That's completely just based on this acupressure point, because what this point does is this sends energy downward. So this is actually really great, especially for anxiety causing nausea or palpitations. So things that are more upward, more rising. I get that a lot. So I use this all the time. Like if I'm, sometimes if I get, this helps with car sickness, this helps with morning sickness. This is an amazing point for nausea, but also for anxiety in general, palpitations. And anytime there's this too much energy rising up. So it sends energy downward because it helps to relax the diaphragm, which puts us back into that parasympathetic state. The other interesting thing to notice is that this is actually a pericardium point. So pericardium is on the fire element. It's related to the heart. And when we saw that circle of the elements that generate each other, fire generates earth, right? So fire is the mother of earth. So when we support the parent, we support the child, we support the mother, right? We need to give more love to the mother, and that will help the child. So that's what we're doing here. We're doing a fire point, but also interestingly, this is called the earth point on the fire meridian. So there's just always like so much beauty to all of this. But along each yin meridian and yang meridian, there are different elements along those meridians. So that's that point. That's PC6. It's great even to use with some essential oils, things like that. And then I always take breaths downward. So if you tend to get that, you press on this point and you breathe in, down, and out, down. So there's always the sense of like the in breath coming in and down into the belly, and then the out breath exiting out the bottom of the belly. And it's amazing. Like usually within 2 or 3 breaths, if I'm feeling a little off, a little queasy, it settles everything down. The next thing we want to do is to really think about our self-care right now, almost in the sense of like a mother who joyfully wants to do special things for their child. You know that? Like I just wanted to get them that amazing like gift or card, or sending yourself that energy through your self-care. So rather than making it something just to do, something you should do, check it off, prioritizing the self-connection and that self-care, it just becomes a part of who you are. So it's not something to do, it's just a part of your being. And so that's kind of my spin on self-care, is having it just become more and more part of our being, part of our identity. And so, of course, in this, we're going to have to think about our boundaries, right? Are we creating those boundaries on our time, even if it's just a moment, or we're creating boundaries on our energy? We're not going to go there with people. That's just self-care right there. So having that sense of self and that center in your self-care. And then I always like to think about how we can add, some intention, some notes of luxury, and that routines become sacred rituals. So I'll do my morning. Often I'll have a feeling of self-care during my morning coffee. I'll like to have a moment of self-care in the evening. And I know you do this a lot, Amalia, but like whenever you're washing your face, you're doing it anyway. You might as well do it with just a nice little touch. I love that picture of that woman just giving yourself and receiving touch and love and a little bit of extra, a little bit of extra. So, and then even the way you create your space, right? How can you infuse that with self-care? That's an extension of yourself. The other thing I'll always mention for people is to let yourself be tired right now. So fatigue is really common during any seasonal change. We don't realize how much this kind of takes a toll on our body. So if you've been finding yourself just in the last week or two, you're like, why am I so tired, extra tired right now? It's because it takes energy for the earth to go through these changes. We're a part of it. We're going through it as well. So feeling tired is nothing to really get worried about, right? If it's chronic, it doesn't go away, yeah, but usually it only doesn't go away. We don't attend to it. So the sooner we can just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna, take some time, take some extra rest, take 3 deep breaths, something like that, and take that pause. It's allowing the energy to sink to the bottom, right? To take that full yin that will turn into the yang, that full bottom will rise back up as long as we let it. And so one of my favorite things to do is I'll lay with my legs over the couch, but some people really like to legs up the wall, but I'll kind of slide my butt right up to the edge of the couch on the floor on a yoga mat, and I lay my calves over the couch and I put out my arms, and that's like one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling like I really need to reground. I'm super tired. Another great thing to do always, but especially right now, is anything relating to feeling like you're making contact with the earth, with grounding. And studies have shown that earthing, which is really just standing barefoot, or if you use any of those earthing mats and things like that, it balances our body's electromagnetic charge, it reduces inflammation and anxiety. And so here are some different ways you can, anytime you get out barefoot, slow mindful walks, opening your senses, really, feeling and seeing and smelling everything around you. Laying on your back. So in that last pose, like really imagine sinking into gravity. And then if you lay on your belly, it's like being belly to belly with the earth, which I love that image of like connecting to her in that way. And then all these other things. Anything that gets you out into nature, to farms, gardens, even just planting something, getting your hands a little dirty. So another practice right now that is really important is to acknowledge the abundance of everything all around us. And I love this quote is also from that same book. It says, abundance is not a physical state, but a condition of the mind and spirit. When earth energies are balanced, there is a natural recognition of the abundance that the universe offers us. So when we are so future focused of worries, right, of what if, it's like we lose sight of what is. So sometimes that's all just goes like, what is, right? Not what if, and I'll just say cancel that, what is right now. So what is happening? Something in your life is worth appreciating. Is it your health or your home, your family, your career, or just the abundance of the natural world around you? Also acknowledging things that were once seeds of hope for you and now are happening, right? Did you have a wish for something, a partner, or something in your life that you have now, right? For me, it's like sisters in a circle and these connections that I have. This was like something I had a hope for this time last year, right? And it's just like blossomed in these most beautiful ways. So acknowledging that, it's like, wow, the things I want right now, I had in whatever, a year from, I'll probably be looking back and I'll be having those. So rather than always wanting that next thing, like acknowledging what you have, taking nourishment from simple pleasures is a beautiful practice right now. Giving is a way to really feel a sense of abundance. And then there's another acupressure point for that as well, which is amazing that these points along the body, and again, thousands of years ago, like were designed, were created. And the names of them are amazing. I think I forgot to talk about that before. The names of them, this point on the stomach channel is called abundant splendor, right? That's what it's translated to. So needling or pressing that point can actually help us feel more supported, can help us feel satisfied and grounded. It's on the leg. Practicing contentment, similar to recognizing abundance, but kind of a slightly different shift on it, take on it. And again, just remembering that like we're always taught that there's something else to do, something else we need, right? We're not complete. So how can you find that sense of just total fulfillment and fullness and completeness, right? It's not going to last forever, but even just to take a moment, few seconds of your day to be like, oh, I am like complete right now. Everything's complete right now. So sometimes even just thinking of a scenario of completeness and of contentment can create that situation in your body. It's almost like a creative visualization. So here are some ideas. A mother rocking in her chair, holding your baby, like that feeling with just perfect contentment. Sitting around a fire, laying in a hammock, right? Or even just saying, ah, like allowing yourself to have that, right? So this was something I actually woke up this morning thinking this, and I was like, I really want to share this and hear your guys' take on it, because I have something that I've been struggling, which is like, how do I care about people in my life without worrying about them? I'm like, can I divide that? Can I splice those things apart? It's like, it's not helping, but I just didn't know how. And I'm like, if I'm not worried, is it cold? Is it just kind of bypassing, right? If I don't have that sense of like, I care so much that I'm worrying. And what I woke up with this quote, which is comfort as nature does, which is the idea that like nature comforts us, but it actually doesn't worry about us, right? It doesn't have, we don't have to worry about things in order for them to be okay. So I'm using this practice a lot with people who I find that I'm worried about them, or like, we always have someone who's kind of like, we feel like we're a little, yeah, it's like they're struggling. If someone in our life is struggling, or even if we're struggling, creating that sense of like, what would it be like if I was just almost like nature for this person, holding space without an agenda, without a control, and feeling like you're this open field and holding that space. Like it gave me a new understanding of that term, holding space. So comfort as nature does. It's not even like you're not providing it, actually. You're just being it. You're emanating it in a sense, right? So another thing we can do around this time is add the earth colors and shapes. This is kind of like a feng shui thing, but seeing if you want to play around with bringing in some of those yellow flowers, some yellow decor, finding, some yellow, some orange. And some people, yellow is probably the least common. Clothing and all that. I have this one yellow shirt. That's why I'm wearing it. But seeing if you can start to bring that into your life. And then also things related to the energy of earth, which is roundness, comfort, softness, luxury. And then you can also add more bowls, right? Things like that are containers, clay, pottery, and stones. Bringing those into your world will actually support your earth element. So each element has a different sound. I didn't put that in the chart, but that's actually another part of those correspondences. So singing is the sound of earth. And I think it's so perfect because I feel like the earth is singing always at late summer. Like when you open up the window and it's just hit with those sounds of insect music. I don't know if that's everywhere. I'm curious if that's happening, like out west as well, but here it starts in August, and then it just feels like it gets so loud and so beautiful. And it feels like there's just all this singing happening in the earth. So singing is actually healing for the spleen and stomach. I find if I'm anxious, I'll hum a little bit and it really helps. And then there's like some science behind this, which that the voice box is connected to the vagus nerve. And so that's kind of become like a big topic right now, the vagus nerve, and that has strong ties to anxiety and to all these different process in our body, right? The digestion. And so stimulating the vagus nerve through the humming and the vibration will help to slow our heart rate and put our bodies in rest and digest mode. So it all makes sense and aligns. And then lastly, I think this is the last one, is to really think about your exercise. And so slowing down, just aligning with that same energy of like, how can I slow down a little bit? And this has been a huge shift for me. And I know another way that Amalia and I align, which is kind of recovering from the intense exercise that we did probably like in our 20s and maybe even 30s, and slowing down and not being afraid like what will happen to my body if I don't do all this exercise that I'm supposed to do. I had to go through that. And what I found was that I just became so much more energized and balanced and focused when I shifted from what I was doing before, which was pretty intense workouts and running, to now just qigong and walking and like a little bit of yoga. And so there's a lot of things you can do, right? Gentle yoga, Pilates, swimming, dancing, Tai Chi, even like gardening or gentle, like easy cleanup around the house. All of that is considered gentle movement. So that is all she wrote. And then I know a bunch of you already have my contact, but if you wanted it, I'll put it again. I'm sure it'll be sent out again in the chat. And I share a lot of these little tidbits on Instagram. So that's my handle right there. And stop my share. And that is it. Hello again. It's always funny when I'm sharing, I'm like, am I still talking to people? But that's
We're still here. I just wanted to let you know that if you would like to share anything post circle, that I can include it in an email to the group. Some women have shared their whole presentation, like PDFs, or just your information, your contact information or resources. So anything that you want to share with the group, you just send over and we'll connect the women to that.
okay, for sure. For sure. So I want to see if there's any, comments or questions or inspirations from hearing all that. Yeah. And if not, we'll do a short Qigong practice. We're going to show you those channels, how to trace the channels and some of the points.
I'll chime in.
Yeah.
I've been really looking forward to this because I've been really I feel drawn to living this way, and so I just needed more information, and I love how everything is so connected. The colors, like just decorating your house for the season, and maybe even the colors that you wear, and the food that you eat and how you cook it, and all of it is so connected and helps you actually be part of that interconnectivity of the earth. And it's just so beautiful. And the way you explained it all, um, I just, I get it now.
That's awesome. Yeah, and a lot of people find that it's things they're already doing, right? It's like a lot of us are naturally doing this, and it's cool to see that there's this really beautiful system behind it all. And so maybe there
Mhm.
could be even a couple extra details to add in, or just even more intention and more meaningfulness between what we're already doing.
Yeah. And why I felt so heavy all summer with knowing that we were still eating in our same patterns as winter, and
Mhm.
um and then not realizing also that laziness is actually part of of that season too, and that it's okay, and that it's part of the season, and to lavish in it.
Yes. Fruitful
Mhm.
laziness. I love that term. Yeah. You guys want to move a little bit?
Yes.
Also, all right. So we're gonna take a minute to step back away from your computer if you're joining.
Oh, here.
If
Can you
you,
can hear me? I wanted to share that. I don't know if you can see the comments, but
oh yeah.
Jamie said your presentation comes at such a divinely perfect time for me and my family. It all resonates. Thank you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So yeah, we're gonna do a short movement practice. I teach Qigong. I totally forgot to introduce myself before. I'm an acupuncturist and a Qigong teacher. So Qigong comes from Chinese medicine. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
good, because I have this mic on. Qigong is similar to Tai Chi. A lot of people have heard of that. Maybe not as much of Qigong, but it comes from Chinese medicine. And it's a movement practice to help balance and flow the energy through our body, just like an acupuncture practice would. So I'm actually just going to lift this up a little better. Let me just try to make sure you see my arms. So I'm going to bring you through just a little taste of feeling that energy flow out your body and also really connecting to the sense of the center of the spleen and stomach meridians and that place of balance, that place of things flowing and feeling alive. So we always start with our feet slightly wider than the hips with that really stable base. And now that you're standing, taking a few breaths just to arrive into this pose, into this moment. If you'd like, you can close the eyes. Noticing the breath. On the exhale, let the shoulders melt down, feeling that downward energy down the spine, down the hips, all the way down the legs and out to the bottoms of the feet. Imagine the soles of the feet are spreading out and sinking deeper into the floor, almost like you're standing in warm sand. Really connecting to the soles of the feet. And then bring your energy back to the breath, following it through the nose, down to the throat, to the chest. Seeing if you can invite it deeper into the belly. And then imagine the energy of the breath branching down each leg, traveling down each leg and out through the feet. Imagining roots growing into the earth through the feet, winding, spiraling down, effortlessly finding nourishment in the rich soil. Anchoring you deep into Mother Earth. And then drawing that nourishment up. So imagining it going right through the tip of the root, traveling, winding back up into the sole of the foot, traveling up the legs, and then going right up to the center of the belly, the center of the heart, up to the top of the head, into the sky. Feeling that lifting from the top of the head. Maybe that created a little extra torso in the breath to fill out deeper and fuller and wider. You know, coming back to that breath belly, imagining the breath expanding like a balloon in all directions on the inhale, in the lower belly, and then back to center on the exhale. And that inhale of the breath, maybe expanding with a little bigger, traveling out to the limbs, out past the surface of the body, even into the space all around you. And then always coming back to that center point below the belly button. And when you're ready, opening the eyes, bend the knees, and roll the shoulders up on the inhale and turn the arms out. We're going to start with the cleansing breath. So inhale the arms up overhead, straighten the legs, the palms face down at the top, and then exhale, hands down the front of the body, bending the knees again at the bottom. And just moving through this. Inhaling, sweeping up, filling up with air. Exhale down. Inhale, and kind of like we did in the beginning, imagining this spring, this rising and growing. Pause at the top, feeling that fullness. Exhaling, releasing through the fall. Feeling that emptiness at the bottom of the winter. That just turns right into the spring. Good. And then these last few, imagine the hands are like a filter, allowing them to filter out through the feet, clearing out the space all around you, clearing out the mind, the heart, and the body. And then bringing the hands to the sides of the legs, leaning side to side and rolling the shoulder back on that side. So starting a little bit of a warm up, making that circle bigger now, leading with the elbow, gliding the hands from front to back, feeling that you're moving softly, making the circle maybe a little bigger until the hands are overhead. So the side you're leaning toward, that arm is rising up. And I always like to imagine that I'm combing out and clearing out my mind here and just sorting things and then letting them drop behind me. Let's do one more each side. And bringing both arms down now, cross the wrists and bend the knees. Inhale, make a big circle overhead. Exhale, cross. Moving through this big circle. Seeing if you can take the whole exhale at the bottom and the whole inhale at the top. Good. And then bringing the palms together, starting to rub the palms. So we're going to move into channel tracing and moving the energy along the body. So we're activating some heat and chi in our hands, getting a little extra healing energy to go in to our body. So as you do this, relax the shoulders, relax the elbows, feel the hips heavy, feel the knees soft. Once again, feeling the soles of the feet on the floor. And then slowing it down, bringing the hands onto the lower belly. So the thumbs are right about at the belly button. And breathing here again, once again, if you'd like, you can close the eyes or lower them. Feeling the rise and fall of the hands under the belly. And sending the warmth of the hands to soften any tension that you might feel. So this reciprocity of giving and receiving into your center. Good. And then bring one hand, the top hand onto the heart. And just breathing here. Again, the heart and fire is the mother of earth. So feeling that mothering quality to yourself through your heart. And then we're going to bring both hands up to the eyes. So imagine you can send energy right from the center of the palm to the point right at the lower part of the lower lid. So that's stomach one. So imagine you're sending energy from the center of the palm to that point below the eye, kind of right in that lower part of the eye socket. Breathing into the beginning of the stomach channel. Sometimes just activating or touching the entry and exit points, they're called, the beginning and end of the channel, can help smooth out the flow and help any issues along those channels. So we're gonna slide the hands down the cheek until the hands are right at the jaw. Coming up the side of the jaw onto the top corner of the forehead. Coming back down, right down the midline of the clavicle, over the midline of the breast, over the nipple line, and then down the belly. Once you get to the belly, you're gonna slide out a little bit. So if this is the midline, we're like just lateral to the midline. Go all the way down the leg on this line, just outward from the midline. Sweep over the top of the foot, up the inner foot, and then right on the inner part of the midline. So the inner part of that bone, kind of like the inner part of the front of the thigh. That's the spleen channel. Coming up to at the belly button. And then we're just going to pull the hands apart and land on the side of the ribs. And that's the end of the spleen channel. If you want, you can take a couple breaths here, feeling the ribs expand like an accordion with that breath, and then release. So that was the spleen and stomach channel. And then we're just going to do a little more Qigong practice for earth element. So bringing our hands back to rubbing the hands. And now we're going to work with the energy ball. So bringing in that sense of the roundness of movement, the roundness of energy, all related to the earth element. We're rubbing our hands, and then we're going to slow them down, pause with the hands facing, and seeing if they naturally separate. So this is our little chi ball, and you can bounce a little bit, the hands open and close, seeing if you feel a little more energy or tingling or density in between the hands. Opening and closing the ball right under the belly button. And we're going to start to expand the breath and expand the ball even more. So inhale, seeing if you can make that ball a little bigger. Exhale, close. Starting to move with the breath. Exhale. And adding some movement in the legs. So bend the knees and then straighten. So you can really accentuate that feeling of expansion. Exhale. Maybe even feeling like the breath is moving you, so that inhale is moving everything apart, expanding. The exhaling is drawing back to center. And then maybe making that ball a little bigger, taking up a little more space. With each inhale, seeing if you can grow a little bigger. If you want, you can come up on your toes and then slowly land back down, bend the knees. On these last two, just get even bigger, seeing how big can you make that container. Right? If you can make the container bigger, you can receive more. So going all the way out to the far edges of that ball, bringing it back to the belly. Now we're going to start to move the ball. So give it a little push and bring it up to one side. There'll be a little twist in the torso, and swing it down and swing it up to the other side. Good, just swinging it down side to side to start. Bending in the knees and then straightening. So feeling this gentle rocking. And getting that sense of like kind of the suspension and then the release. So that suspension, that's where we are right now in our planetary shift. It's like we're just going over the top, and then we'll be moving into the fall. Adding the breath, inhale, exhale, inhale. And then this time we're going to pass that side, going all the way overhead, down the other side. Seeing if you can still feel the energy between the palms. Exhale down. And now we have the earth rotating around the central sun, around the heart. And this helps that that rounding, spiraling, circular energy that our digestion needs. Good. And the next time you're down, just pause at the bottom and go the other way a few times. And then this time, pause at the top. Bring that ball right down the center. Bring it back to right under the belly button. And then we're going to rotate the ball. So if you were holding a ball from the sides, you're going to, as if you're rotating it, just to bring one hand below and one hand above. Feeling now that different way of holding the ball. Bend the knees. And then this time we're going to, as the legs straighten, we're going to separate the hands. So one goes up, one goes down. Spiral the hands so that they switch positions. And then bringing them back to that center wall of the lower belly. Bend the knees. Inhale, straighten and rise and grow. Spiral, radiate the energy out. And then gather it back in. Inhale, like you're radiating energy out the arms. And then receiving. So again, giving, finding that balance between being able to give and receive. And let's do one more. Exhaling, compress that energy into the belly. This time, start the movement, but pause when the arms are out to the sides. Turn both palms up now and just take a couple more breaths in this last pose of total openness, total receiving. If you'd like, you can gently look up or lean back a little bit. Heart open, hands open, feet open, everything open. And then when you're ready, bring the arms up overhead again. Exhale down the front, and we'll finish with a few cleansing breaths. Always like to start and end just to reground again. Energy that got moved, settling it back down. Good. And then finally, lifting the arms up and pausing with the palms facing each other now. And imagine a ball of golden sunlight swirling in between the hands. And more sunlight or moonlight, if you'd like, I should say. Usually I'm doing this in the morning. Let's gather some moonlight in between the hands. Some pure, beautiful, sparkling white light. We're going to bring that light down, sending it through the top of the head. Starting to move the hands down the body, sending sparkles or rays of light out to every cell, to the mind, the neck, the heart, the lungs, down the belly, down the hips, legs, and out to the feet. And letting the hands rest to the side, taking one more big inhale. Exhaling, feel the feet. And thank you all. This was our earth practice. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Oh, I love Qigong so much.
Oh,
Yeah, I love it.
me too.
Tell me what to
That was
do.
so magical, Stephanie.
Oh, and looks like you're outside under the moonlight.
I am, yes.
I'm catching this beautiful orangey, pinky, yellow sunset right now. It was
Oh,
it was
yeah.
beautiful.
Amazing.
I
Yeah.
I want to ask you if there is anything that you wanted to share in closing. or if any of the other women would like to share.
I'm just so appreciative to have, when I create these slides, like it's like I dive back in, and that's what I've been doing over the past weekend. And it just brings me back into the knowledge and to the wisdom of this all. And then I'll take little breaks to like really be it, really live it, and then go back to like the mental part of it. But it's just been an honor. Thank you. I love it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing, Stefanie.
Thank you,
Yeah.
especially just your time and all of the time that it takes to really put these thoughts together. It doesn't go unnoticed. Like, I know what it takes to create, something like this. And the generosity is felt.
Oh.
And the last thing that you said about just taking pauses, even in the creation, to allow the intellect
Mhm.
to become embodied. And you touched on that a lot throughout the slides, just like these are lists uh, for self-exploration, and you don't want to check boxes for self-care. You don't want to do the bubble bath and eat the yellow foods because your intellect is telling you, or Stefanie told you. You want these to be inspirations to sort of put through the filter of the body, and ask the body, like, what are we gravitating toward, what is resonating most, and
Yeah.
allowing that embodiment to ultimately filter out those lists to the things that are going to be, most beneficial, most sometimes even the things that we like resonate with the least and find like more dissonance with, is like that flag that kind of shows you like, like maybe we need to look here. But the call um, that you repeatedly offered to take this information and allow it to be in your body. And that means that we're not going to do everything on the list. But
Yeah.
I feel that landed very well, um, and is so important. I think self-care has gotten boiled down to like manicures and bubble baths, and embodiment is sort of the missing piece to like, whatever we would eat, or however we would choose to exercise. And um, that is sort of our next subject and offering. And Jacqueline, who is here with us, is going to be talking about embodiment and being empowerment, or somatic confidence is what she was offering. But basically these merge so well because it's about like, letting the intellect and the mind meet. And that is really where true embodiment is. Because if you just feel something and you don't have any information for it, it's just feeling, it can be really overwhelming and disconcerting. I mean, sometimes that is like what anxiety is. It's like a lot of feelings, but no real information attached. You just attach random thoughts. Like, I'm just going to worry about this because I have this feeling in my body. So I'm just going to start to think that I worry about all these things. But embodiment is when we have some kind of information to meet the sensation, and also for all of the information coming in to filter down into the body, to have yeses or nos from the body. The top down information needs to be like filtered by the body, and the bottom up information needs to be filtered by the mind. Otherwise, the body information is, sometimes I've had clients tell me that I'm terrified of my body because I have all these feelings. I feel my feelings. I'm not numb, but I don't know what to do with them. And so this framework of being able to bounce back between intellect and somatics is super empowering. And I feel like, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can't be like, oh, intellect is over,
Yeah.
like like the unit, like you said, the seed of one is like the peak of one is the seed of the other. The yin and the yang, they contain one another. They're not just polar opposites. So I just wanted to make that connection, because I've also always had a feeling that you and Jacqueline would like vibe. So one day you guys to talk.
Okay. Awesome.
And maybe do something together. Jacqueline, are you down to speak a little bit just about like what you do and what you want to talk about?
Yeah, thank you. But I wanted to say, Stephanie, thank you. And I've always wanted to ask someone this question, so I think you're perfect for it. Hopefully you feel okay answering it. What is the exact difference between Tai Chi and Qigong? Like if there's a
Mm.
succinct one sentence or however long it takes.
Yep. So the
Or
way
which
I
came
describe
first? Yeah,
Tai Chi is more of like a choreographed set of steps.
Tai Chi choreographed. Okay.
Yeah. So like, have you seen people in the park do it? Like they
Mhm.
move this and then they like move that. And it's like a whole, I think there's like an actual number for 20 something forms they're called. And
Yeah,
they're
taekwondo.
just, yeah, they're just in order. Like it's a dance. And so interestingly, when I've done Tai Chi, I felt very in my head because I was like, what's the next move? And like, what's this little turn that I have to do? And and it's beautiful, right? I'm sure once you get it, it becomes like this gorgeous muscle memory that you do. But Qigong is just usually one movement or like one or two movements over and over with the breath, and then another and another. And it can be a lot more creative and it can shift. As I'm teaching my classes throughout the year, I'm usually focusing on the element and the organ system of that time. So yeah, I would just say Qigong is just easier and more simple to learn to do.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the sense and the feeling of the slowness and the moving of the energy. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Mm. And thank you for introducing me, Amalia. I love these circles when I get to jump on. Yeah, so next month, I'll offer um, a new idea that has been percolating for some time called somatic confidence. It actually was evoked in a conversation that we had. But as a somatic practitioner and a certified yoga therapist and a longtime yoga teacher, and also a self-proclaimed self-mastered on myself after 20 years of personal development and growth. I'm just really excited to share what I believe is needed in the society of, women being confident and loving themselves no matter what size, shape, color, hair, eyes, nose, boobs, butt, belly, all the things. So it's going to be about embodying that confidence to really walk in that space of self-love fully, authentically, 101%. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Are we going to be doing like movement practice?
Yeah, so there'll be, after I saw your presentation, like, that's a really great presentation. I'm like, Amalia, do I need to? There
No,
might
a
be a
lot of
little,
people have them. Some
yeah,
people don't. Everyone is so different on how they,
I
a lot of
I
people.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you've been to enough.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's more conversation, sometimes
yeah.
it's, like a real presentation, and a lot of the time it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'd probably elaborate on the nervous system and then definitely be mostly practice and a conversation around the circle. Yeah.
that's all.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
women, for your time and the wisdom that you are sharing, and even just the energy that you bring to the space, the curiosity and the openness. It's all just like an ingredient in the alchemy of these groups. So I thank you all for being here, and we will see you next month, hopefully, for Jacqueline's offering.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you, my people.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I followed you on Instagram, so you'll see me.
Awesome.
Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
Bye,
great.
guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Stephanie.
Bye. Thank you.
Mwah, mwah. Love you guys.
Bye.
See you soon.